In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up and adjust your AAE KSL Gold finger tab. So that was a lot of letters, but what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to properly fit a KSL Gold finger tab to your hand. A couple of things you should be looking for on where to adjust and set up things like your finger spacer and this palm plate, and ultimately help you set it up so it's really comfortable for you at home. For those of you that are new here, my name is Kaminski. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery. I'm working to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery out there. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time I upload a new video. I'm ultimately just trying to help make you a better archer and eliminate the growing pains that I had when I was coming up in the sport. You're watching the Kaminski YouTube channel. So I've had a lot of questions specific about this finger tab and how to set up a KSL Gold finger tab from AAE specific to each individual archer, because there are a couple of features on this tab that are unique and are not necessarily standard as far as an industry-wide thing goes. So I'm going to help eliminate any sort of confusion and give you the best ways to select and size a finger tab that is correct for you. So this is a new finger tab. This is a small version of the AAE Gold. This is the brass version with the Cordovan leather face, and it comes with a finger spacer, the shelf, some hardware, the actual tab itself, plus the palm plate mounted on the tab. Now there are options for a brass palm plate, which you can see here. This is just machined brass instead of this injection molded piece of plastic. It adds a bit more weight to the tab itself. Now a lot of people out there aren't even exactly sure why we offer a brass version through AAE, and basically it just comes down to the mass weight itself. The extra mass weight makes it feel a bit more robust and solid in your hand. In my opinion, it really cleans up the release when you actually shoot the shot. Plus, that extra mass weight, and I've done a bunch of experimentation at home. I've actually mounted stabilizer weights to my finger spacer, and I found the heavier I made my finger tab, the more stable my sight picture became. It really just kind of helped a lot with that solid anchor position, and it just made the shot feel a bit more stable. So I prefer the brass. Now another thing to consider is you really want to make sure you go for the Cordovan option, the Cordovan leather, not the super leather option. The super leather is a bit more affordable, but the performance and the longevity that you're going to get out of the Cordovan is just going to be worth its weight in gold. You have to go with it, in my opinion. It's the only way I would ever use this finger tab is with the Cordovan leather face. Now, Cordovan leather is horse leather. It's a very different type of leather. It's a lot more stiff and robust, not stiff like you won't feel the string, but it just stands up to a lot more abuse for a much longer period of time than really many other leather tab faces out there. So Cordovan is definitely the way to go. So this is the tab plate itself with a palm plate mounted to it. This is a medium size. Like I said, this is a small that I have that I took out of the box. But what I want to show you first thing on how to size the tab for your hand itself is if you had your fingers in your hand and you take the finger spacer, you put the finger spacer between your fingers, and then what you want to do is you want to put the plate and make sure that the hole is lined up with the finger spacer, and you want to see how the plate fits in your hand. And you can see this medium tab sits pretty good in my fingers. It sits evenly in the middle sections of my index and ring finger here. It's not too long and sticking way far down, or it's not really short and only covering my top two fingers. This small tab will probably be a little bit too small for me, but the medium tab for me is just a little bit too big. It really comes down to shooter preference, and putting your hands on them and being able to put them on and look at them and see the size and fitment is really going to be important. So you might need to go to a pro shop or something like that in your local area to really make sure that it's fit correct. Now this is another tab plate that actually somebody else makes by the name of Terry Laney. And this is a large or an extra large. It's a much bigger one. And if you can see, as if I line up my finger spacer here, it hangs below my ring finger quite a bit. So this one is just way too big for me. So that's definitely not something I would use and look for, and make sure that your Look for that your tab plate on the bottom finger does not extend past your actual bone of the finger itself. So here's the small in my hand. It's actually not too bad. It fits quite decent. It's a little short, but it's not too bad. Okay, so the first thing that I would do when the finger spacer is mounted correctly and the elastic is routed how they suggest, it sits like this. You can see there's a loop that sticks out, and these 3 loops are one for each finger, of course, for your 3 fingers, and the finger spacer sits in the middle. And this top loop just basically kind of holds your finger in the loop. It doesn't pull it against the finger tab. Whereas if you looked at these other ones, these bottom 2 fingers, there's a much larger section in the center here that allows your fingers to be pushed, sucked down towards the tab face itself. So the way that you can adjust this and make this index finger be sucked against the finger tab, which I just really like the feel of, by the way, is to do something like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the routing of the elastic. All right, so before I get into showing you the tab, I guess I should show you the close-up of it here. This is the actual small tab. You can see it's engraved S for small. The medium, of course, medium, M for medium, and large would be L. But essentially, this is the tab itself, the cordovan face, and the palm plate. So the palm plate, again, is this molded piece of plastic. And here is, oh no, that's a prototype. This is the production piece that you can get when you upgrade and pay for the palm plate. It's just a piece of brass that's then machined. I highly advise the palm plate. So, like I was saying, this elastic is coming out of this strap here. And when the finger spacer is in the correct position, like this, you can see that your finger is just going to kind of sit in here. It's not going to get sucked down against the actual tab plate, unlike what the ring finger does. As you can see, there's a large flat area here. And what I'm going to show you is how I adjust this. So what I would do is I take these top bolts, or these top screws, out of the actual tab itself. And then I have to remove the elastic and reroute the entire thing. So it's a bit of a pain, because it comes somewhat assembled, but not exactly how I would run it. But this is absolutely worth it. So the elastic that comes with it has a soft side and a rough side. I always put the soft side towards my fingers. So I will make sure the soft side is going to go in the slot here. But I don't put it through the slot here. I move the leather out of the way, and I come from this side. So brass, when it oxidizes, it turns green. So you can see it's nice and shiny, but on the inside, where it was absorbing some of the moisture from the leather, it turns green. So you can see some of these older versions and older tabs turn green over time. So anyway, what I do is I take the tab, the soft side, and put it through the soft side down through this side here, the front of the tab, pull it through where that little steel thing is going to keep it in place. And then I take those screws and I put it back inside the tab. And you got to kind of pull the elastic out of the way so you don't go through the tab. You don't really need to. And you don't have to tighten these tight, just snug. And now, when the finger spacer is in place, you'll see this flat area that'll hold your finger against the tab. So if you look at the leather that I use, or the tab that I used, I kind of double backed this elastic, so you can ignore this top piece. Not super important, but you can see that these 3 loops will pull my fingers against the tab plate like this. It's much more comfortable and a lot more secure with that top finger. So after you do this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to the medium tab plate, this one here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't have the tab face itself on it, so I'll be able to show you what you're looking for placements on your actual fingers. So you'll notice that this finger spacer has 3 different holes, And those 3 holes are just so you can slide it front to back differently. The slot in the tab allows some adjustment front to back, but then those holes allow you an even further adjustment. So what I have basically always used is either this middle one or the front one. I'm going to show you the middle one in this, and then you can see a little section milled out here for the actual elastic to go through without being pinched a whole lot. So you take your hardware that came with the kit, you put it in the bolt hole from this side, and then you want to thread it into this middle finger spacer. Now, or the middle hole on the finger spacer. Now, this is going to be slightly different for everybody, and it's going to require a slightly different positioning. So you can see that when it's loose, you have adjustment here, okay? So I'm going to put it all the way in on this middle one and just snug it. And now what you want to do is you want to make sure that the finger spacer is coming straight out of the finger tab like this, not at an angle. So it's not going to cock the tab like this or like this. You want to make sure it's sitting nice and flat in your hand here. So I'm going to snug this down. And essentially, what you can do is you can adjust the position of the tab relative to the finger spacer. When the finger spacer is all the way in like this against the webbing of your fingers, and you can hold your finger spacer, when you turn it over, what you're looking for is this bottom edge to be in line with the joint on your bottom finger like that. All right, so that's perfect. That is ideal, exactly where you want it. So you can slide this forward to back, use different holes and whatever to try to get this to be right where that knuckle is. Now, the whole idea of this finger tab itself, the KSL Gold, is to basically help you and enhance the optimal finger position and the optimal curls that we are supposed to be using according to Coach Lee while shooting the KSL shot cycle or the best method or the NTS, whatever you want to call it. And I've already done a video, if you haven't yet, by the way, on hook and grip in the set position. If you haven't seen it, there'll be a link in the description below. Plus, I'll put a card at the top here on where you can find that video. I'd recommend checking out the rest of that series if you haven't seen it yet either. But basically, ideally, you have more index finger curl, a little less middle finger, and then the bottom finger is just kind of hanging on. It's not curled a whole lot. And what this is doing is it's preventing you from curling and bear clawing the string like a lot of people want to do. So in the optimal position, you'll be able to curl your index finger a lot more, your middle finger a little less, and then your ring finger the least of all. So that's the whole idea of this tab itself. So that's how you fit it. You want to make sure that this is in line with that knuckle. Now, let's talk about the palm plate. As you can see, the palm plate has those slots and can slide back and forth, as well as there are different holes here that you can mount it vertically different. I've never used the upper ones. I really just use these bottom two. But you can adjust these and slide the palm plate in and out just like you could the finger spacer. So you can make it shorter, longer. You can tilt it like this. You can adjust it and make it in a very particular spot for yourself. What I like to do is here. This is the tab I actually shot all the time. And you can see that the top, it's tilted downward a lot. So it's actually in this position like so. And so what that is doing is it's positioning this palm plate right here to be in a spot in my hand in a very particular way. Now, when we're using the KSL shot cycle and we're anchoring and we're holding the string exactly how I've discussed in my video series, the form series, and you're in this position with your wrist bent like that, there's a hollow spot in here that the tab palm plate will push against to make sure and show you in the correct the position you are in is correct. So if I take my finger tab that I shot with all the time, as you can see, it's in the middle of my palm. When I curl my thumb and finger together and get into the correct position, you can see that the palm plate is pushing into my palm like that. So the whole idea is to get it into that position. Now this is an old prototype that I was playing with a long time ago. And the same thing. Now, because I just bend this tab, not many people will want to take a brand new tab and put it in a vise and bend it like I did. but it has the same principle. You can see it's pushing in my palm like that. And again, this bottom thing in line with that knuckle, and I can get more curl with my top finger, and I can't as much with the ring finger. That's the whole plan and the whole idea. So you can play with mounting the tab on this or the plate on this side, on that side, angling it, whatever. What you want to do is you make sure that it's in a position where you're curling and touching your thumb and pinky together, that this isn't in the way and preventing it. If it was too far down, too far back, it might pinch you, so you might have to slide it forward or adjust it. You know, depending on your hand size, it's really going to change where it goes. But essentially, this cutout here will allow this knuckle to kind of protrude a little bit and push into the tab like that, and then the palm plate sits in your hand, just like so. Now, another thing that I absolutely would recommend picking up if you're going to get these tabs and use this finger tab, in addition to the palm plate, is something that's called like the finger spacer kit, something like that. Essentially what it is there's some rubber pieces that you can attach to make the finger spacer wider. I've never found that I needed to make the finger spacer wider than just using the supplied silicone band that snaps on the actual finger spacer. And what you do is you take this silicone band, you stretch it over the finger spacer itself, slide it all the way down, and then it looks like this. All right, so it gives you a little bit of a rubber cushion, a grip to hold on to. It makes that finger spacer a little bit thicker as well, just enough in my opinion. I've not seen many people need to use much fatter than a finger spacer than this. As long as they're squeezing their finger spacer and then hooking the string like I suggest and like Coach Lee suggests, then you don't need a thicker spacer than this. So this is more than ideal. Again, another little thing that I think makes this tab really comfortable, user-friendly, and unlike a lot of others out there. But basically, that is the rundown on how to set up your KSL Gold finger tab from AAE.